Okay, what's up, people? We're live. We got to let it breathe just for a moment, though. Hang tight, hang tight. Bring on Facebook here. The gut reaction has not officially began because Scott and I decided, hey, let's spend 2 minutes and 34 seconds on a little watch along. But Scott, for those who maybe haven't been able to watch the game, the Broncos just allowed a long drive and Trey Lance to nearly tie it, but he needed 2 points to officially tie it, not just an extra point. The 2 point conversion, no good. So bend don't break this time. They didn't break on this last possession, but still signs from the third and fourth stringers, Scott, that they're kind of having a hard time stopping them when the chips are down.
Well, they needed to, but those guys that had been starters or were starters and aren't playing were in their street clothes, and we know how bad that is. And they rushed way down the field to celebrate, so the 2 point conversion came from about the 17 or 18 after a personal foul instead of a first and goal from the 3 or a standard 2 point play.
Yeah.
They don't really care, but still 2 timeouts, 2:26 to go. So you're gonna have to get a first down, maybe 2 first downs in order to close this one out. But Trey Lance engineering a good drive. You can see the arm talent that what they're talking about. What made him such a high pick because he's got a fastball. There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
And then you add on the fact that he rushed for about 1,200 yards.
Yeah.
In his 1 year of playing in college, and you've got a pretty good prospect. It was still an awful lot to go up and get a guy as unproven as him, though.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. He's looked, understandably so, he's looked a little bit rusty till that last possession, but give him props because chips were down in the clutch and Trey Lance drove down. But yeah, the Broncos have 3 timeouts. The Niners have all 3 timeouts. So I got to echo what you said here. The Broncos, if they really want to put this on ice, Sean Payton's got to methodically get 2 first downs, not just a first down and a first down. He's got to get, he's got to kind of kill some clock and make them use their timeouts and move the
right now with 4 wide. Danucci's under pressure, rolling out, dodges a sack, and throws one that's knocked down. Don't want to do play-by-play. That can get us in trouble with some of this stuff. But the 49ers are going to get the ball back with plenty of time to go. They'll have the 2-minute warning, a timeout, and 2 minutes left to go. So, for those of you that care about the win or the loss at this point, and I know that the coaches and stuff like to get all gruff-faced and mad and stuff at the end of the game, but all they really want to see is execution. Don't do stupid stuff like get me a personal foul that cost me a 2-point play or pre-snap penalties, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's
Isn't it weird?
Plenty of time for the 49ers here in Trey Lance. They're going to have to tighten up just a little bit.
What the Broncos need is a turnover here. And they've had a lot of luck so far tonight in the turnover department. And they've even let a couple slip through their fingers that should have been. But, that's kind of the way it goes in almost every football game I've ever seen is there's always that 1 or 2 that they should have had. But still, like from a team perspective, the Broncos have three takeaways to Niners 0 so far. So that's encouraging based on what we've seen in years past.
Yeah, we've talked about being more aggressive on the defensive side of the ball. You may give up some more big plays, but you should make some more big plays. It looks like they've finally gone to the 3rd string at edge, and that has taken all 4 quarters because I see Christopher Allen and they're getting held. He put some pressure on. They could have called a penalty there. He was getting held. But it would have been – that was one of the interesting things to me. And the 49ers guys are actually doing a good job. After that crap show we had to listen to from the Arizona Cardinals on the national broadcast last week.
Yeah.
The 49ers crew is doing a really good job. And they made mention of the facts like, hey, it's late in the 3rd. Randy Gregory's still on the field.
See, that's the difference is why you're ahead of me. So me being in the Rockies, Scott not being in the Rockies, he's getting the national broadcast. I'm getting of course, the KUSA broadcast. But isn't it weird? Wouldn't you think that I should be ahead of you considering, I got local.
It all comes down to the stream or whatnot. So I'm watching the NFL Plus stream right now, and I'm getting
start using that.
Get the home. When they do that, they do the home team. So the Broncos haven't played at home yet. So I've gotten I got Arizona last week, which was just awful.
See, I haven't heard any of the calls from that game.
Oh, you know what? It's what's so cool about MLB. The MLB app says, do you want to choose away? Do you want to choose home? Or if it's a national game, do you want to choose national? It's great. Or listen in Spanish. Man, I much rather would have listened to Jugamos el Baseball than that Ron Wolfley guy last week doing his best David Putty impersonation from Seinfeld. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was come on over, we'll make out. He was just awful.
Well, tonight's gut reaction is not officially started for those of you who are just joining us. And as you can see, Scott, from the number of people in the room, our macro number that we can see, you guys can't, across all our platforms. A lot of people are still watching this game and they're on the edge of their seat and they're going, "Dadgum, let's get a stop, Broncos." But while we're waiting to officially kick off the gut reaction, Troy jumping in with a super. Thank you, big dog. Really appreciate you saying, "Hey guys, I can't listen now, but wanted to support." Really, really, that means a lot to us. It says, listened
Troy,
on the
I have
radio.
a question. I'm going to have to interrupt you on this
Yeah,
one. Troy, when can you listen?
He's a busy guy, you know.
He's got to be. You've
He's
got to be
running
the
and gunning.
busiest guy, because that's his comment, and we love you for it.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you for coming in and making the time to come in and say, "Hey, but I'm going to run a show for Troy." Troy, you tell me when you can listen, when you can be live, and that's when we're going to do the show. Because in the morning he comes in, "Hey, can't listen, have a great show." In the evenings, Saturday night, all the time. Dude, we love you. Thank you. I mean, you're regular like clockwork. And I feel bad that you can't listen to us live, because we're certainly we appreciate everything you do for us while we are live. That's for sure.
It's the mark of a true ride or die member of our community who not only throws down every single stream, but even if they can't watch live, they're throwing down a super chat. And yet we take comfort also, Troy, in knowing that you will be streaming this after the fact. So appreciate you, big dog. But he was listening on the radio, says it sounded much better, and he can't wait to watch the game. And Scott, you and I are both from a generation that was very much accustomed to listening to a lot of stuff on the radio. And I still enjoy listening to some sports on the radio calls, but a lot of the younger folk nowadays, if they don't have a visual, they're completely lost.
Oh, I still listen to a lot of sports on the radio. In fact, it's about the only thing I listen to on the radio.
Yes. David, thank you, bud. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well tonight, jumping in before we've officially kicked off the gut reaction. And I know I'm behind you. So I'm just going to look at the NFL GSIS and see where we're at here. So play under review. Second and 10.
We're live again. It's 1st and 10. They just hit a little slip screen or something while I was sneezing my lungs out here. And
bless you.
And it's a minute 35. They only need about 30 more yards for a field goal attempt here, so it's going to be tight. David Wilder, how you doing, my friend? Thank you for coming in here. Appreciate you coming in with a super chat.
Yes, indeed, brother. Really appreciate you. Should we, Scott, get to some of these who want to talk about, or should we wait a minute till we get to some of like how he wants to talk about Naj? You know, we hate putting our supporters on ice and making you wait for anything, but might be better so that our eye is completely like focused on it's in the books. Let's, instead of trying to keep tabs on what's happening. So if maybe Naj, Howie, if you don't mind, hang tight for a minute. And some of the other questions about Wilson, guys, trust, we're going to get into the whole 9 yards. But where are we at now? Official review, not down by contact, play reverse. Okay. See, I'm just reading off NFL stats because I'm too far behind you.
Yeah, booth review right now is what I'm looking at. I can't tell. They're talking about it right now as far as what the play is. You know, one of the interesting things I picked up, but it didn't seem to affect him because he's still out there, was on that big hit. Jail Skinner made a really nice play, rocked the guy, but when he got up, he was flexing his wrist. That made me nervous a little bit, but he didn't come out of the game. In fact, I think he's still in there right now, and I think he's still holding his wrist.
43-yard dagger.
So that might be something to keep an eye on after the game. You might have to play it with a little wrap or whatnot moving forward.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. Trey Lance, though, just hit a receiver on a 43-yard connection down to the Broncos 21. So they're going to get a shot at their field goal here. And, man, come on. What's going on, guys? What's going on, guys? What's going on, guys, on that play?
That play was a nice little post route, and he was fast enough. He ended up kind of beating 4 guys inside and getting a kind of a little skinny post.
Turn the Jets on.
Lance drops back, little in route, and then he runs
Bam.
parallel, runs sideways away from people, and then cuts up and picks up another 20 yards to get into very, very makeable field goal range.
Man, when Lance has time in that pocket, he can sling it, dude. He's got himself a nice arm.
Oh, he's toolsy. You know, they like to use that phrase. He's toolsy. It's just, again, I think the poor dude's always going to be measured against 3 first-round picks. You know, and that's not necessarily fair to him, but they traded 3 first-round picks to go get Trey Lance, and then he was beat out by Mr. Irrelevant once he came back healthy. I mean, and then to say they're going to get rid of him for a 3rd rounder still doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I like to say, you know, if I had a 1st-round grade on him, I'd be willing to give up a 2nd for him now. You lose some of the cost control ability, but, you know, trust your evaluation on this. And if I had an evaluation, if I'm the Denver Broncos, and I said I have a 1st-round grade on this guy, and I can get him for a 2nd, I'd seriously consider it. You want to talk about trying to mitigate? Let's say the cheapest thing you could do next year with Russell Wilson, if Russell Wilson's not your guy, is to just shelve him. It would be cheaper than actually trying to cut him and eat $80 million worth of dead cap. Get a cheaper cost control quarterback, and maybe it costs me a 2nd rounder to do it. I would find that worth it. And San Francisco's driving and eating clock right now. This one's going to come down to a very makeable field goal, I have a feeling.
Vance Joseph apoplectic on the sideline with just some of this sloppy lack of poise in the clutch. And unfortunately, it's not like, here's the problem, Scott. Broncos fans are going to be once again knee-jerking over the defensive collapses in successive games, but it's 3rd and 4th stringers. We got to remember this, guys. But there is now a pattern, Scott. So how much of that do you read into?
I'm not too worried about it. I'm just not. I mean, again, like you're saying, this is the end of the game. You've got Trey Lance, a guy who's worth 3 first-round draft picks, going against your 3rd stringers at home, preseason game. Again, there's some mistakes tackling. I don't want to see bad tackling, but you're going against a lot of guys that aren't going to be on the team in 3 weeks.
Yeah, most definitely. So we are sitting here on a 2 consecutive kneel downs, and
the Broncos just burned their last time out.
Yep. This is it. Well, not it, but don't do that. I hate, it's really cool. Modern technology and streaming and all that stuff. But sometimes they are real idiots. I just lost my stream because I don't know why. I got to figure it out. Oh, I know. Guide. Yeah. Here we go.
Well, what was interesting is I was watching this game. I kept getting you must agree to terms and services from my NFL Plus on my Roku. I'm like, okay, I agree. And then 10 minutes later, come up like, yes, I still agree.
Here we go.
I'm not disagreeable.
Oh, no. Sorry. So have you liked the NFL Plus so far? I mean, no, probably not going to use it much during the regular season. Maybe you will. I don't know. But
I do, because I watch all the games on replay after the fact. I mean, I typically don't get to watch the Broncos live.
Right.
So being able to watch them, I use it after the fact, and it's a hell lot better than dropping the YouTube money to do it. That's for sure.
The condensed is clutch. I love that. Cut out all the commercials, cut out all the in-between banter of the color guys and the play-by-play, and just play.
35 minutes. It's not. It ends up taking me just as long, though, because I keep hitting that rewind button to watch the interior line, like 4 plays. Like you watch every play 4 times. Like reverse. Okay, what did Cushenberry do? What did Glasgow do? What did Reisner do? And it would still take me about as long. So 3 seconds left. Here comes the final kick.
Here we go.
Looks like it's pretty much a chip shot. I think it can't be any longer than 35, 36 yards.
Yeah, this is a chip shot. It'd be nice to get a block. It'd be nice to affect the kick here, but just because I don't want to deal with the next week of everybody freaking out. Here we go. And of course, it's good. It's barely good.
Sneaks it in on the right side.
So that's that. All right, guys. Without further ado, welcome to the Mile High Huddle podcast, the gut reaction episode. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me tonight is Mr. Producer Extraordinaire himself, Scott Kennedy. We've been, Scott, having some fun bantering back and forth a little bit as we watch these closing 2 possessions of the Niners and the one pitiful 3 and out by the Broncos. But first things first, we'll get to all the end of game stuff, but let's talk about the most meaningful thing, which is really first things first. What's your biggest takeaway from what you saw from the first teamers and just overall tonight?
My biggest takeaway on this one is my biggest concerns for this team right now didn't look like that big of concerns in this game. My biggest concerns have been in the trenches. My biggest concerns have been being able to hold up on the defensive line against someone that wants to run right at you and being able to run when you needed to on the offensive line. The Broncos were able to do that. My biggest concern on the team personnel-wise was Lloyd Cushenberry on the front in the middle of that line. Lloyd Cushenberry was doing just fine. Lloyd Cushenberry was doing combination blocks. He was teaming up with the guard on either side, getting a forward push, coming off of those, picking up another man. Lloyd Cushenberry is going to be the starting center on this team. I have zero doubt about that unless someone else comes in. Kyle Fuller ain't it, y'all. It's not going to happen. Lloyd Cushenberry played fine. The defensive side of the ball, pretty harsh on Jonathan Harris last year. When he played this time last year, I said, I don't want to see him or McTelvin Najim on a field when it matters. Jonathan Harris is playing okay.
Yeah.
He's playing okay. DJ Jones is okay in the middle. Zach Allen. I'm not sure that those guys are perfect 3-4 down linemen, but they're doing well enough. My biggest takeaway from this single game, Chad, was the lack of rhythm in the passing game.
Right.
When they would drop back, whether it was Russell Wilson, whether it was Jarrett Stidham, whether it was Ben DiNucci, you never saw them drop back in rhythm and hit their first read. It just did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? I don't have the answer to that right now. I don't know why not. Was there nobody open? Was there no trust in your receivers? Is it a lack of comfort? I can't see over my linemen. I don't know. But the passing game was out of rhythm, and that would be my biggest takeaway, my biggest concern from the things that I saw tonight.
A good illustration of that is how the Broncos absolutely crushed it in the running game with 165 rush yards to San Francisco's 99. But in the passing domain, the Broncos with a pitiful 157 passing yards to San Francisco's 323. Now, granted, San Fran got a lot of passing yardage because of the demand of having to kind of speed things up at the end to catch up and take the lead, etc., and win this game. But I would agree with you that there just doesn't quite seem to be everything clicking quite yet on the passing game. But I am encouraged on a couple of things. Sean Payton on Monday following the Arizona game kind of minimized all the pressure Russ was under and Stidham for that matter. And so we'll get that fixed. Pressure was much less an issue tonight. They definitely cleaned up a lot of that stuff, but all that did, I think, Scott, is more, even though they had more time, it made it more apparent for us watching that there's still some rhythm things missing that are probably just going to take more time on task for Russ and everybody else to get on point.
Well, and last week you'd see it was, what was it, 3 and out to begin with, and then Series 2 was better. It got a little bit better as you went on, but still, one of the phrases that has stuck on my mind that I learned a long, long time ago was the broken play is no basis for an offense.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to be able to do things in rhythm. Your short passing game right now isn't working. Okay, that's a problem. That's a big staple in a Sean Payton offense. All right, well, what is working in the passing game? I don't know.
Exactly.
That's gonna take some time. That's the stuff that you do. You believe in Sean Payton? Do you think that Russell Wilson still has the arm to get it there? I do. Does he have the cerebrum, the intelligence to pick it up and get it done? And did he have the personnel on the other side? I think the answer to that is yes, yes, and yes. To what extent, I don't know. Is he ever going to be Drew Brees going for 5,000 yards a season? Probably not.
Yeah.
Does he have to be for this team to win and win big? No. But from a personnel standpoint and the things that scared me about this team in the trenches, they look pretty good tonight.
Yeah.
That was encouraging, Chad.
There was a lot to take away that is positive. Unfortunately, just like Sean Payton will be in a bad mood the rest of tonight, he'll be in a bad mood probably tomorrow, and maybe by Monday he'll be feeling a little bit better because, and Broncos country similarly, because whether it's an exhibition game or whether, Scott, it counts in the standings, winning, that's paramount. Now, there's a bunch of other sub priorities, obviously, that take place within the scope of preseason action that also are important, and there's a reason why they play the preseason games. But let's put a pin in some of that for a moment and grab these very awesome Super Chat superstars and supporters who've been very patient, including Howie. What's freaking up, dude? It says, hey, fellas, now this game filled up the hope meter for me. The offense looked good. Russ looked comfortable stepping up. Russ did. Obviously, they did a much better job protecting him this time around. I'm still a little bit alarmed of Ben Powers. I'm going, wait a minute. I thought that was like your calling card was interior pass blocking. But overall, Russ did look more comfortable. They took care of him. It's just the passing concepts and the rhythm, like we were talking earlier, still a little bit disjointed. But, Scott, it's hard to really jump to a conclusion with that on the first team because Russ, they didn't play as much Russ anyway, as much as I thought they were going to play Russ.
What do you read into that, by the way? It's a talking point, obviously, and how we appreciate you coming in. And we're definitely going to get to the supers that are stacking up. We'll run through those. So thanks, everybody, for being here with us tonight. But, obviously, Russell Wilson is a big part of this team. He's a talking point anytime the Broncos suit up. He was the only starter that didn't return. Now, I've got a zillion reasons of why that could be. Some positive, some negative, some logical. What did you read into the fact that he was the only starter that didn't come out for the second series?
Well, notice Purdy was pulled the same time, basically, in terms of where it go.
But he wasn't the only one, though.
Right.
They pulled a lot of their first teamers. Russell Wilson was the only starter that did not go back out on the second series. The only one.
I read into it this. It was enough of because it wasn't just a 3-and-out, right? They were able to stay on the field for a little bit. And I think Peyton was just like, all right, got to see what I needed to from Russ. Probably there were 2 or 3 specific priorities that he and the coaches wanted to hopefully get to while Russ was on the field tonight. And maybe they got to him all in that first possession. And he said, all right, good to go. It's a preseason game. We're going to need Russ.
The logical the thing I got out of that was maybe DiNucci's going to get most of the third game, and there's a battle for the number 2 spot. We want to see. We want Stidham to get as much time as we can with the 1s and /2s. Next week, I bet DiNucci starts. That's my thought process. And that is maybe there's an actual battle for the number 2 quarterback position, and that's who they want to evaluate with trying to do as much apples and apples as they possibly can.
It could be, but you have just
the real pessimist in me. If I was hey, look at me in this hot take scenario, I'd say he looked totally uncomfortable back there. Couldn't hit his first read to save his life. Sean Payton was sick of it, and he yanked him. We've got a quarterback controversy on our hands. No, I don't think that. I mean, I consider it because I consider everything because I'm a crazy person. All these voices in my head, that was one of them. But no, I honestly think this might have more to do. Russ coming out has more to do with the number 2 quarterback position.
Wouldn't be surprised. But in that vein, even if that was the thought process going into this one, like, hey, let's pull Russ early now that we're here, what we've seen in practice this week, so we can get as much Stidham tape tonight, and then because we're going to give more to DiNucci in game 3. I'm not sure DiNucci really justified an additional eating out of Jarrett Stidham's bowl possibility because, I don't know, he just wasn't very good when he was asked to actually drop back and pass. But Naj, bro, thank you for being patient. We love you. We appreciate you. He says the takeaways, Russ looks confident. The O-line slightly better. McLaughlin, Jalil, excellent. Backup quarterbacks worse than last year. Offense still inconsistent. Special teams better. Really hope we win. Mostly agree with all that. Special teams coverage units were a little bit leaky tonight. That was one thing that was solid in the first game, and you got some decent returns in the punt arena of things for the Broncos. Tonight they allowed, I think, too much yardage on returns. But again, this is all stuff that when I really think about, like Sean Payton last Monday talking about all that pressure that was being relinquished on the quarterbacks and how they were going to clean that up, I take a lot of comfort and confidence in the fact that one game removed, yep, they cleaned a lot of that up. I would say the O-line was better than slightly better, though, Scott, tonight. But
compared to last week, they were a lot better
Yeah.
than last week. Now, Ben Powers still concerned me in pass pro.
What is going on with him?
You know, it was if he was singled up on his guy, and it was, you know, that I've got to hold on to this guy by myself. He was getting beat inside, getting beat outside. That is a concern. When I needed to run the ball, I could. When's the last? This is my third year covering this team, Chad. You haven't been able to say that in 3 years about the Denver Broncos. I need a yard. I can get it. I can get it. Cushenberry is getting a push forward. Miners is getting a push forward, and Ben Powers is getting a push forward. Now I've got very different backs because Naj, you were talking about the different backs.
Mm-hmm.
I got Javonte Williams. He's not just a hammer, because a hammer is just kind of straight. He's got like a little bit of wiggle and slide to him too, where he's like a pile driver. I don't even know what to call him.
Yeah.
And then McLaughlin, for as small as he is, he's got little subtle cuts within the tackles in all that traffic in order to squirt through tight spots and still be a short yardage runner, even though he's diminutive. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive. You can get yardage. You can get short yardage now when you need to. That is a huge improvement for this team.
And
Chad.
just one thing I love watching McLaughlin so far is he's just savvy with his presence of mind in those real-time live bullet moments that get broken down in fractions of a second, that some guys just freak out and panic and they never can quite be themselves. For him, it's like the game slows down in those fractions of a second. Like that second touchdown he got on the receiving thing, pausing temporarily, let everybody flow right by him and into the end zone. Naj, number 2 tonight. Bro, love you. Says another blown fourth quarter lead. I don't like how much this is feeling more and more like the last several seasons. Broncos have no idea how to win close games. Disappointing. So for what it's worth in terms of context, Naj's first super chat came at 9:23 Mountain Time, well before the game. I mean, the Niners hadn't even scored that touchdown yet. So, and then they did. Then they missed the second or the 2-point conversion. Broncos 3 and out. Then, of course, Trey Lance gets it back, goes down, scores a field goal, and that's that. So what's your message to Naj, Scott, on the subject of it feeling a little too close to what it's been in terms of closing games out, best performance, saving it for the clutch, knowing how to win?
I get it. I understand, and it takes some time. This team, we've talked about culture a lot, Naj, and how that doesn't happen necessarily in 1 year, and what it's going to take, and why some players who might seem like good players might not be here next year, and why some guys aren't here anymore, because there needed to be a culture change with this team. There needed to be an attitude adjustment, as we might say down here south. And that's part of it. And it will come. I'm not going to hand wring at all. If they had missed that field goal and the Broncos won, if they had stopped them at the 50 and never even got a field goal, I don't care. It doesn't change what I'm looking for, the win-loss for this game, what I'm evaluating, what the coaches are evaluating, what they're looking at. The win-loss pretty much 99% doesn't matter. It's about personnel at this point, in this point of the season. And from a personnel standpoint, I'm liking what I've seen with the improvements I've seen in the trenches. Now it's about getting everybody clicking on the same page offensively. And then, turn some guys loose. When I saw a lot to like on defense too that we can get into over the course of the next 30, 45 minutes, Chad.
We definitely will. Naj, love you, big dog. We'll continue to talk about that subject, I'm sure, as tonight's show marches on. FA, though, top rope. Boom. Love it. Thank you, bro. Really appreciate you. helping us keep the lights on when we stay up late like this for you. So thank you, big dog. He says, another loss, but I'm very encouraged with the first team offense and defense. Russ looks like his old self. So great seeing Javonte out there. Third team defense, cannot lose any starting defenders. And then he goes on to say with another top rope super chat, what a difference a competent coach makes. We looked better than last week on offense. Even Mar looked good. Yes, a little bit of confidence restored in Mar. Have faith, Broncos country. The operation looks great. I'm very well encouraged. Appreciate you. Seriously, bro. Means a lot to us. But yeah, I'm really not. There's nothing that I've seen so far that is hyper concerning. Would you prefer in a perfect world to have wins in the preseason? Sure. But it's a matter of, like Scott was talking about, fleshing out personnel, figuring out how things are working in real game time situations, who's going to stick, who's going to bounce. But it is something now that there's 2 games in a row, late game collapses, late game lack of poise. Again, if you go back to that final possession of the Niners, you had Vance Joseph on the sideline, who's normally actually from what I remember him his 2 years in Denver, Scott, quite a copacetic. Now, granted, that's as a head coach who kind of needs to maybe maintain a more ambassador kind of outward thing. But not all of them are like that. Tonight, he was pissed. He was not happy with some of the lapses he was seeing from his dudes. So if that was first teamers, you'd be freaking out. But it wasn't, guys. It wasn't.
And coaches coach. I mean, I know this sounds ridiculously simplistic, but if you've ever coached at all, it doesn't matter what the score is. You could be up 7-0. You could be down 7-0 in a baseball game. You still want to see your players, your kids compete. You still want to see them doing the right things because that's what you spend all this time doing. And it makes you feel like a dumbass. If they're out there making stupid mistakes, it reflects poorly on you. So they're going to coach their butts off no matter who's on the field. That's just who they are.
Yeah.
Now, how concerned they would be, you can tell by the waiver wire the next week. That's when you can start telling how concerned they are. And you can't do that yet because you're carrying 90 guys. When you can see how concerned they are about the players on the field that have been on the field in the last drive of the last 2 games, tell me how many of those guys are going to be on the 69-man roster, 53 plus 16. Yeah. How many? There might be 2 or 3 that were out there. Yeah, maybe. Jail Skinner will make it. Drew Sanders will make it.
I'm liking Garcia's outlook now.
Another positive. Again, I mentioned the trenches. Yep. I see a little bit of depth in the trenches as well. With Garcia out there, there was another guy that caught my eye a little bit. Again, I've been harsh enough on Jonathan Harris. I want to say, okay, listen, I like the way he was playing. Garcia is probably the one, though, as far as the next level. There's still not a lot of depth there on the defensive line.
Yeah. Hey, Cody, thank you, buddy. Appreciate the support on Facebook. Mike saying, hey, on a side note, Drew Lock has balled out these past 2 games. Appreciate you, Mike. And that is good to see. But tonight we got to really keep it on Broncos. We don't have as much time as we'd maybe normally like. Thank you for the support. You know we love you, Mike. The Triple C in the house, Colby, saying, my take from this game, a plethora. Scott, is it plethora or plethora?
For me, it's plethora. That doesn't mean it's right, though.
To me, it's whatever the mood strikes me. So tonight the mood is plethora, says Colby, of running backs, and we seem to be getting some pressure on them.
That's a big one for me. All right. That's a big one for me, Colby and Chad and the rest of y'all. Broncos country. You've got depth at the edge, okay? You've got four guys in there that can get to the from the edge position that can put pressure on the quarterback. Benito I kept notes, I kept bullet points this whole time. And through the second half, I was like, Benito is just wreaking havoc in this game. His backside pursuit is next level because of his speed.
Yeah.
If you do not, and you've never faced this guy before, and that's the beauty about an edge, you don't really have to make but one play a game to impact a game. If I'm facing him for the first time and it's 3rd and 13 and I don't respect his speed to the outside, he's going to cause a problem for my quarterback. That could be a game-changing play.
Yeah.
If I am singled up on him and he's able to give me a little shoulder dip and go inside. Jonathan Cooper, looking good. Randy Gregory was out there for 3 full quarters on a rotation, but he was out there till the end of the third quarter. Baron Browning get healthy, and you've got a 5-man crew out there that can do some things. The pass rush will be better this year. It will be better, Chad.
Yes, I agree. And it's starting to not sound quite so hyperbolic what Vance Joseph said a week and a half back, that this is the deepest edge room I've had in a long time.
To be able to put a fresh legs out there in the fourth quarter is like stealing.
It is.
I mean, that's a cheat code.
It's very nice to see, and I'm really encouraged by Jonathan Cooper. And I don't know, it's weird how numbers and stuff can just kind of change an aesthetic for a player, but he just looks dope out there in the 0 on the edge. It's just really cool to see him being productive.
53 or something last year?
53, yeah.
53. It's like, that's a linebacker number. Now you look like I've got some attitude.
Yeah.
There was a linebacker who's he was wearing like a 60. I'm like, dude, you're not Ray Nitschke. Tell him that he needs to change his number. He's a 6-foot white kid trying to get recruited. Change his number. He was out there in like 4 at edge the next time. I'm like, there you go. Don't be out there in 61. They're going to think you're slow.
Alonzo, brother, thank you for the very generous support, my friend. He says, I'm getting an opening drive field goal was such a sigh of relief. The O-line was better. Javonte looked great. Marr made a long field goal, all against a good Niners defense. That's a good thing to emphasize here too, is this was a respectable top-level defense, which also Scott could have.
Not if you listen to the. It was so funny, Chad. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Reminded me. Listening to the national broadcast, they were interviewing Javon Hargrave down at the bottom afterwards, and just gushing about, man, what is it like playing on this team with this dude? He just won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. They had 70 sacks last year. Do you think he's going to come in here to the 49ers and be like, wow?
Yeah.
It's like, guys, forests, trees,
Yes,
thanks.
indeed.
You're going to help make us better.
That could have been one of the factors on why, after a productive, long, kind of sustained scoring drive to open things up for Russ, he pulled him. But anyway, he goes on to say, thanks for the great content, fellas. Hashtag MHH for life. Really appreciate that. Scott, what did you make of Javonte Williams night? Let's talk about him for a moment.
The fact that he was out there was amazing to me. What was the first play was a little like a drop screen play or something. And then the second time he's lined out wide in a 4-man, 4 wide receivers, trips right. He's at the bottom of the screen by himself. And I'm saying to myself, why do they do this? That's like having 10 men on the field. They never throw on the ball. Sure enough, here comes Russ, broken out left, and they throw the ball. Javonte Williams makes a diving catch.
Nice catch,
a first down. It came back for a penalty.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the officials have some. You talk about them. Oh yeah, they're really focusing that on this year. Good Lord, it seems like they're throwing holding flags. Like they're getting paid per flag right now. Not just this game. I'm talking about every game I've watched. I'm seeing little ticky-tack holding calls. I'm like, guys, you can't call these, or it's going to be the longest season of all time.
Yeah. There's a nice happy medium. That's one thing about the 2020 season, that there was a lot that sucked about it, including no fans and all that, and limited access, really no access. But it was nice that they kind of just let the players play. Unless it was super egregious, they kept their laundry in the pocket. Tom, what's up, buddy? Thank you for the super. He says the O-line looked so much better. Cush, a second great game. I don't know how, but he looked like our best O-lineman 2 games now. Williams and McLaughlin, wow. Yeah, see, that's the thing too, Scott, is it was really cool to see how active. It's like Sean Payton wasn't just about let's get Pookie some snaps. Like, he was straight force feeding my dog touches. Like, let's get that rust. Let's really test. Doesn't seem like the Broncos are at all really afraid of his knee. Like, it's more of a, hey, let's help you get the rust off, dude, because you're good to go.
I'm glad, because I'm telling you, every time he gets the ball, I'm clutching my pearls. That's not quite the right, phrase, but I'm nervous when he touches the ball. My heart's in my throat. Please get up. On one of those plays, he goes to the right side and there's guys falling on the back of his legs. And I'm just like, oh, come, please.
Yeah.
Any word, speaking of, oh no, on Jalen Virgil? Is there anything that's come out after? Y'all let us know in the chat.
Yeah, you guys let us know.
It looked like, he grabbed high calf, low knee area on the outside of his leg after he got rolled up on that one.
Hope it's not an Achilles.
It wasn't that low. No, it wasn't that low. His hand covered what would have been the lower part of his outside of his knee or upper calf on the outside of his right leg.
Yeah. Mike, bro, thank you. Generous super chat helping us out tonight. He says, good evening, gentlemen. Thank you, Scott, for reminding everyone this is preseason. Saw improvement tonight for sure.
No kidding. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, hey, it is. But, it's understandable, like Opethian, if I can find it. We can't keep losing by a single point. What the hell? Totally get it, dude. I don't think anyone would be feeling nearly as sketched out about it if it wasn't on the heels of the last 7 years that have been the last 7 years. So I think Broncos country can be forgiven for taking it maybe a little bit harder than might be required here.
And
so
there might be 4 million Broncos fans in the United States. 3,900,000 of them probably didn't watch the fourth quarter. The win-loss, I know, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, y'all. It's a preseason win-loss record is about the most meaningless stat on earth.
Yeah. Huero, dude, it's good to see you. Been a minute. This is a long-standing Super Chat superstar at MHH. Great to see you, bud. And we still love your YouTube profile pic. It's top level.
And are you going to be there? Are you going to be there this year it was good to see you last year. We'll be back for the meet and greet. So hopefully you'll be there again.
October 22nd. He says, sorry, I haven't been on live, guys. Made my life busier back in February, but try to watch after, though. No worries, bud. He says, Russ looks better, but we need a second or third string quarterback. Scott, this is as good an opportunity as any of something I felt prompted to do when you started talking about rhythm, quarterback rhythm and stuff, because it's quite evident when you look at this. It might be hard for some of you, so I'm going to go full screen just for a second so you can see it, because it's hard to blow up
this
page. So real quick, look at this. Niners, every quarterback, every quarterback here, 93.1, 93.2, 118.8. Then you look at the Broncos. Stidham ended up for, whatever reason, 92.8. Russ, 60. DiNucci, 89.9. Now, I only bring that up to further illustrate that after kind of being slightly encouraged by DiNucci in game one, I'm a little bit less stoked on him. Not stoked, a little less confident that there's as much of a true competition for QB2 than maybe we might have surmised coming out of week one. And that's not because Stidham was great tonight. He wasn't. He was pretty pedestrian, but he wasn't terrible. He was just like barely passable. You know what I mean? And
no pun intended.
He didn't look DiNucci as loose and kind of like having fun out there, and in the critical moments just wasn't making plays. So hopefully, all I can say is we'll see how that shakes out next week.
If we were willing to try and use an excuse for Russell Wilson and Russell Wilson especially, that he was the most pressured quarterback in the game out of about 70 quarterbacks that played last week, he was number one. Jarrett Stidham was number three. If we wanted to talk about them, and Russell Wilson still had 103 quarterback rating last week. If we were going to use that, then we can't then just give Ben DiNucci the automatic, well, he looked better when he only had an 11% pressure rate, which was bottom 5%. So Jarrett Stidham was under a ton of pressure. Ben DiNucci was under zero pressure. Okay, well, he had a chance to get a first down, and San Francisco brought some heat. He went 3-and-out pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So be fair. Try and do apples to apples when you're making your comparison, and we'll see just how much a competition there is. Based on his contract, Jarrett Stidham's not going anywhere. And frankly, pretty much every team in the league, if they lose their number one, they're in big trouble. That's just the way it is. And there's very few teams that have built quarterback agnostic systems out there. You happen to be facing one of them, if not the only one of them tonight.
Right. Very good point. Howie, what's up, bro? Again, he says, Pookie looked rock solid. Run game looked better all around. Does any rookie quarterback look enticing around the NFL that might not make their current teams? Hashtag Buckham. Thank you, bro. Scott, real quick, because we're already 45 minutes into our stream. We got to hop off soon.
Yeah, but we started at 15 in, so we're only
That's
30
true.
in.
That's true. But guys, any burning topics, get them in the chat. We're approaching rapid fire time just because there's some written stuff that has to get up, etc. that I'm gonna have to take care of. But what's your answer for him on any rookies across the NFL might look decent enough who could be cut?
There aren't going to be anybody that's cut. If a rookie's any good, you're keeping him because he's cheap, dirt cheap. That's the cheapest thing you can do. So, Howie, I wouldn't be looking for a rookie cut to come in and be better than what you've got already. If they're better than Jarrett Stidham, they're not getting cut.
Jacob, bro, thank you. Hutton jumping in. He says, not impressed with Frank Clark in this game. Couldn't get a push in the pass rush. Couldn't defend the edge in the second half. Frank Clark was probably, as far as the top 4 edge rushers that saw the field tonight, he was like the least impactful. But, that's kind of his game. Is he's more of the plotter. He's more of like, the steady guy that eventually, just because he's out there and he's savvy enough as a vet and he's got some strength and power, he'll eventually get his. But he's kind of a guy, I think, Scott, who traditionally takes a little time to get rolling. And that's in a macro sense, like throughout a season, but especially in games. I'm not really worried about Frank Clark.
Jacob, I think this is a great point because I agree with you 100%. And that Frank Clark was a non-factor for the most part. But correct me if I'm wrong, this was his first action in the preseason.
It is.
He's a 10-year veteran. They probably said, Frank, go out there and get your legs loose. Don't do anything, crazy out there. Don't hurt yourself. Get a couple bumps and bruises, and then come shower. And we'll have dinner tonight. So that Frank Clark is out there at all is just to get ready. I bet you don't see him next week.
Yeah. Michaela, what's up? Good to see you tonight. Thank you for the super. The refs, she says, at the end of the first half were not good. What did you make of that last one tick of the clock thing after the Virgil injury, and they're trying to turf it?
On the rules, is every play, do they treat it like college and every play is reviewable under 2 minutes? Because if it is, they should have stopped it to look and see if he actually scored the freaking touchdown.
Yeah.
The rule was, they talked about on the other broadcast. Y'all might not have seen that on the Broncos one. Mike, it's not Florio. I can't remember the name. He was the original rules guy for Fox that everybody followed, and he's really good.
Yeah.
The color guy for the Broncos, or the play-by-play guy, said, I got a text for it, and they said, in order to overturn that call to put time back on the clock, there has to be 2 seconds on it to make sure that there is room for human error.
Mm.
I promise you there were not 2 seconds left on the clock.
That's true.
If there was a shot clock and it was like 0.2.
It was fractions.
Good enough.
Yeah.
However, that play should have been reviewed to see if you actually scored a touchdown, if that is a reviewable play. And if it is, can you throw a challenge flag if you don't have any timeouts left?
You can't challenge under 2 minutes no matter what anyway.
Yeah, so that should have been reviewed to see if he scored, frankly.
Agreed. Doug, so I didn't keep up with this game. Are we making good progress to be a competitive team in the regular season? What do you think, Scott? And by the way, thank you, Doug.
Absolutely. This looks like a competent team. I know, Doug, you've watched us enough that on, whether it's Broncos for breakfast or one thing, so what do you expect to see? I expect to see competency at the very freaking least. I expect to see a coherent game plan. I expect to see coherent play calls. Do any of that, and you were probably knocking on the door of 500 last year with how many one-score games you were in.
Yep.
Just flipping a couple of those just by not going out there like a bunch of, I'm sorry, but buffoons. And you guys were there. Y'all were there. You're counting down the clock for them so they'd know when to get the playoff. Yes. This team does it still have work to do? Absolutely. Does it still have a good core and a nice talent base for this roster? Yes, it does. Is this going to be a team that can beat anybody that they line up against on any given Sunday? Yes, it is. We'll see how far that's going to take you. I'll stick by my 10-7 right now, Chad.
By the way, Special props and extra credit, 78 Leadhead for I couldn't care less. You got that right, bro. Pet peeve. He says, I couldn't care less if we go 0-3 in the preseason, but I know who does care. Sean Payton. He does in a perfect world, but he also has bigger fish to fry with that regular season coming. Mike, bro, thank you. Again, he says, I think one reason Russ came out early is joint practice this week. Thoughts? Go Broncos, MHH. So maybe Scott anticipating that it could be a little bit more intense this next week with the Rams in town, expected to have at least one joint practice.
Of all the teams I watch right now, and I watch a lot of the Falcons, I watch a lot of the Colts, I watch a lot of the Broncos. The Colts and Falcons and whoever they played, they were doing joints with the Dolphins and Bears. But the Colts didn't play but maybe 2 or 3 of their starters after joint practices. Falcons didn't play any after joint practices, and then they all started the next week. You've seen a lot of the starters for the Broncos in the first 2 games. I don't think they're going to go hard in joint practices. And then the third preseason game is going to be for roster spots 45 through 69. You're not going to see a lot of your first and second team. You'll see your second team. They'll start the game. You won't see a lot of your first teamers in this next game. You're pretty much done until the regular season game now, Mike.
This is the worst, by the way. Dylan, currently stuck in the Niners parking lot. Like, I like going out while I'm there, whether I'm going to a show, whether I'm going to a game, it doesn't matter. I like it when I'm out, but when I'm trying to get out and I'm just in gridlock, I hate that. And so, like, I'm that guy, Scott, who when it's like 5 minutes into the fourth quarter, I'm going, you guys ready to go? No, we want to stay. Because I want to beat the crowd.
Let's not talk about leaving until we've actually gone in. Yeah.
Anyway.
The turning into your parents, the Geico ads or Progressive.
Definitely.
I don't know who it is.
Phil, dude, you are a prince. Saying evening, I'm pleased with what I saw. Russ still has some go in those legs. Definitely, Scott, that's one thing is, all the much ado that was made about Russ losing some of his twitch in his legs. Turns out it was some of those extra LBs, I think. And because he did look nice today, especially tonight, when he did break the pocket, and especially that one long run, seeing that blitz where the pocket just peeled around him and he's like open territory right in front of him on third down, moves up, gets the first, like just really much closer, Scott, to the poised presence of mind Russ with some twitch to him. He's got the arm. We know that in critical moments than we saw at any point really last season. So to see that in a preseason game where it's meaningless in a very low exposure in terms of the number of reps he saw, I'm encouraged.
Turn it into eye candy. Pull it and go. Once a game is all it takes to slow down that edge. One time a game.
Yep.
If you pull it, if you have the threat of the run, you've got to play it honest. And he's a good enough runner to, if you don't play it honestly, you can get 15 or 20 yards. You don't have to be super fast in order to take advantage of they're in man, they all drop back, and I can pick up 15 yards before anybody even knows I took off running. Because I can still outrun, most of the interior defensive linemen. And the edges have to turn around and come catch me, and by then it's too late.
Guys, we're about out of time. We got to keep tonight a little bit kind of tighter. So burning topics, get them in the chat. We'll try to get to them. Faded Wolf, appreciate you, my friend. Good to see you tonight. Hello, Broncos country. Feel comfortable how things are shaping up. I really wanted a win just for the confidence boost. However, really great show. Thanks, buddy. MHH for life, Durham Broncos for life. Yeah. Again, in a perfect world, do you want that win? Yes. Do you want to not see your third and fourth string guys crumble and the chips are down two games in a row? Yes. But Scott made a great point earlier. How many of those guys who relinquished the plays to Trey Lance tonight and relinquished the plays to the Cardinals in the clutch last week are actually going to be on this roster 2.5 weeks from now? The answer is maybe 2 or 3 of them, maybe 2 or 3 of those guys defensively. So don't be tripping on it too hard. But yes, I'm feeling comfortable. I haven't been moved off my, like you were talking about, Scott. You still feeling 10-7? I'm right there with you, dude. I haven't seen anything that takes me or puts me off of that so far.
Yeah, Faded Wolf, appreciate you on that. Again, it's you're worried about personnel and just cleaning things up. You don't want to see there's too many penalties, and I swear to God, a lot of the penalties I've seen so far, I'm like, why is that being called on both sides? A lot of the holdings I've seen are just What are you talking about on these? There was one called on Kendall Hinton, who didn't have a great game tonight, by the way. We can start talking personnel during the week about who's on the bubble, who's not. Kendall Hinton's on that bubble, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have the best game in the world. He did make a nice kick-out block on Jaleel McLaughlin's touchdown run. Howie, we were talking about rookie quarterbacks. He says Jake Luton on the Panthers was a quarterback I was referring to the most. Howie, Jake's in his 4th year in the NFL. So he was drafted in 2020. So again, he would be on a second contract. And if they could find a rookie that they thought was as good as him, he will be available because he would be cheaper.
Hey, look who it is.
Appreciate the stars again, Howie.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Patrick giving an aloha and some good vibes. Bro,
thinking about you, dude.
Yes.
I know it's not your island, but it's your islands.
That's right. That's right. So good to see you tonight, bro. David Wilder, again, thank you, buddy. Says, I think the play calling will win us at least 5 more games in the regular season. I think 11-6 preseason record means nothing. That's the spirit. And I just like seeing Sean Payton out there being intense, doing his thing. I like how he's down there, the 1 second mark thing at the end of the first half, Scott, where, I'm glad to hear on the national broadcast, they talked about the rule that there has to be 2 seconds. But still, Sean Payton doesn't want to hear that. He's down there in their face doing his thing.
Decent lip reader, and he said that was baloney.
Yeah, that was baloney.
It's not quite what he said, but it was BS. He said about that. And again, you want him to be on that. And again, coaches are intense once they get in game. I've had good friends of mine that are high school football coaches that have stayed at my house overnight before we've gone on trips. I will not talk to them on game days. I will flat out not talk to them. They're unapproachable. And these are professionals. They're not pleasant people on game days.
That's right. All right, 2 more guys, and I'm sorry to say we got to cut it off unless there's any last burning supers that come in. But Michael Davis, bro, thank you. Great to see you tonight. He says, gents, he's got an ascending and a descending list here. So maybe risers and fallers, for lack of a better term. Ascending, he's got the pass rush, McLaughlin, Javonte, Drew Sanders, Damari Mathis, McMillian, Tony Jones, who honestly, outside of one play, I was about to say to you guys tonight, I've seen all I need to see from Tony Jones, but he did have that nice run. Although it was like, dude, he's slow, but still. Then he says lots to like on the descending side, the wide receiver, blocking penalties, and Kendall Hinton. Scott.
Want to give a shout out to a guy I have been relentlessly critical of over the last 3 years who had a nice special teams play and Fabian Moreau busting his ass down there as a gunner and getting down there. That's how he can make that team because McMillian was also, he was my first note because you've got a speedy kickoff return man and McMillian came parallel to the line of scrimmage and took him down while he was running away from him. I was like, that was impressive.
Yeah.
The blocking penalties, Kendall Hinton did have a nice kick-out block on that touchdown run. He came in motion, took the corner out of the play, opened up that lane. But other than that, I agree with you, Michael. Kendall Hinton had some trouble. One of my descending is a short passing game altogether. Mm-hmm. It's hard to run a screen. Lloyd Cushenberry is not quick enough to get out wide enough to kick out his man once he gets out there. He's arriving late, and the guy he's supposed to be on is already in the face of the receiver. The screen game needs work.
But you can tell.
And I don't know if you're going to be able to do it with the personnel you've got.
We'll see, but you can tell that it's a priority. They're trying to see what's what on that because I think Sean Payton, as we know, he likes to use that strategically. Naj, number 3 tonight, bro. Thank you. He says, I hope VJ is learning what he could, pardon me, and should call in the last 2-3 minutes of a game. Undoubtedly, we will be in this situation time and time again this year, and the defense will need to make a stop. Hope this preseason helps with that. Scott, your thoughts?
They're rushing 4 on these. We can talk about this all you want to, about how they're going to attack it. I don't want to see a 4-man rush, but the 4 they're rushing in the last 2 minutes of these games have been Christopher Allen, who hasn't played in about 3 years. And I'm not sure who was on the other side. I think it was Thomas Incombe, an undrafted free agent.
Incombe and Haynes were kind of rotating.
So those are your guys that are out there in the last 2 minutes. I want to see pressure in the last 2 minutes, not a 4-man rush on every single play ever. the prevent defense just prevents you from winning. I think we can all agree with that.
Yep.
But I want to see fresh legs out there, and we talked about early in the show having that really deep. You got a rotation of 5 guys that can get to the quarterback right now. Having that, I might be able to rush 4 and get to. Remember when the Bengals beat the Chiefs? You know they did it. Yep. They rushed 3 and got pressure.
They were playing coverage. It was the Vic Fangio dream. You could play coverage because you were getting pressure with 3
guys. I don't care who's back there, including Patrick Mahomes. You're going to beat him if I can get to the quarterback with 3 guys.
Well said.
And it's not going to be Christopher Allen and Thomas Incoom in the 4th quarter of a game that matters.
All right, guys. Last one. Then we got to go from Dave from Georgia. We're twinners tonight, rocking the Buckums. MHHmerch.com. Yeah. Thanks, buddy. He says, hey, Chad and Scott. Hello, Broncos country. I'm out of the loop. What's our receiver room look like now? Hashtag Buckum Broncos country. Thank you, buddy. What has been some of your observations in the preseason of the receiving core thus far?
Mims, Judy, Sutton, quietish for the most part, and Dulcich. That's the way I see 4 right now. For your top 4 receivers. After that, I've seen bad from everybody. I saw Callaway. I saw little Jordan Humphrey. Virgil, let's see how he comes out of this. Has actually looked like one of the better players. Hinton had a tough game.
Yeah, it might be it for Hinton.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with with Hinton. Nick Williams, Grimes, Montrell Washington, no. And we haven't seen Brandon Johnson. So I got 4 guys that you can count on. Jalen Virgil is a wild card, and I see why you're still bringing in receivers to try out right now.
Also, for what it's worth, Rodney, I think Aaron Patrick is cut. I do too, and I'm not going to cry over it one whit because there's just something about that guy that bugs me. String guy, yeah, dude, look forward to seeing it. Let me make sure you send some pics, dude. I want to Mark Holcomb. Oh, yeah, I've seen the pics. Okay, cool. Lots of family health issues, he said. Been very busy. I'll get you a pic at some point. No, I haven't seen the pic. What am I thinking here?
I don't know what you're talking about.
We're talking about guitars, bro. We're talking the lingo of true artistes here. Anyway, look forward to that, brother. But guys, we got to dip on out of here. So before we do, thank you for being with us tonight. Much love and respect. You know, we appreciate each and every one of you for staying up late to talk about what we saw this evening from your Broncos. Connect with our Twitter account at the MHH Pod. Connect with our main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. Get yourself a hat. Get yourself a T-shirt. MHHmerch.com. Get your swag on. Thank you for helping us cross 10,000 followers on our Huddle Up. There's some vintage faux pas for you. Mile High Huddle podcast Facebook page. We're going to be doing something fun to celebrate that, so stay tuned. Connect on Instagram. Scott is a furious video clip making cat right now that we're just dropping video after video on the Instagram at mile_high_huddle and our TikTok. So connect over there, and don't forget to leave us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Really helps us. Subscribe, like, share. You guys know the drill. And Scott, last time I butchered it, bro. So why don't you do the send-off tonight?
I was just going to say thanks again to we had several people come in, Howie, Colby, Doug, etc. on Facebook. And then we had lots of people come in tonight on YouTube, our Super Chat superstars, Troy, David, Naj several times, Alonzo, Tom, Lockoff, Mike, Etzel, FA coming in hot twice. Huge. Cuero, good to see you again, buddy. Jacob Hutton, Michaela Israel, hope y'all are doing well. Faded Wolf Gaming, David again, Michael Davis, and Dave from Georgia.
And thanks Jasmine at the 11th hour.
Every one of you. And Jasmine, who just loves coming in at the buzzer. This time, we caught you. We were able to say thank you in person. So thank you, Jasmine. I hope you enjoyed a gorgeous day in the South, in the metro Atlanta area where she's from today. And look at Deanna coming in here. The ladies sending us to bed. That's right. Where I'm headed.
Gonna sleep well tonight.
It's way past my bedtime. So Deanna, thank you so much for coming in. And if anything's on your mind, hit us up on Twitter. Y'all both know where to find us. Again, thank you to our Super Chat superstars. We will be back tomorrow night. Zach will be back in my spot for the Mile High Huddle podcast. Until next time, as always, go Broncos.
Love you guys.